Okay, this is one of your other choices for your independent reading. It is an opinion piece, which means it is somebody's opinion. The title is Mars Can Wait, Oceans Can't. Background: in March 2012, Canadian deep-sea explorer James Cameron reached the bottom of Challenger Deep at the southern end of the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean. Alone in a specially designed submarine, he collected samples and took videos, a skill he was already known for, having directed two of the world's highest-grossing television movies, Titanic and Avatar. Oh, wow, that's really cool. And I did want to look at it really quick, and I saw this picture, and we read Everest, so it's just showing you that this getting down here is even, like, if you were going all the way up to Mount Everest, it would still be even taller than that, but instead you're going underwater. That's pretty crazy. Oh, where'd my stuff go? Okay. While space travel still gets a lot of attention, not enough attention has been accorded to a major new expedition to the deepest point in the ocean, some 7 miles deep. The recent journey by James Cameron on behalf of National Geographic. The cover story of the prestigious journal Foreign Affairs lays out the case for space. 60 Minutes recently ran a story about the dire, meaning having terrible consequences, effects on Florida's space industry of scaling back our extraterrestrial endeavors, which means space exploration. Newt Gingrich gained attention earlier this year by calling for building a permanent base on the moon. And President Obama has talked of preparing to eventually send Americans into orbit around Mars. Actually, there are very good reasons to stop spending billions, and yes, it is billions, of dollars on manned space missions to explore space in ways that are safer and much less costly, and to grant much higher priority to other scientific and engineering major projects, the oceans in particular. And you know what? I am going to agree with this opinion right now. I'm just thinking out loud that I would rather study our Earth before we start going into space. But that's just, of course, my opinion. The main cost of space exploration arises from the fact that we are set on sending humans rather than robots. The reasons such efforts drive up the cost include a human needs a return ticket, while a robot can go one way. Space vehicles for humans must be made safe, while we can risk a bunch of robots without losing sleep. Robots are much easier to feed, meaning they have no food. They experience little trouble when subject to prolonged weightlessness and are much easier to shield from radiation. And they can do most tasks that the humans can. Okay. British astronomer Royal Martin Rees writes, I think that the practical case for manned flights gets weaker and weaker with everyday advance in robotics and miniaturization, which I don't know what that is. It is hard to see any particular reason or purpose in going back to the moon, or indeed sending people into space at all. Nobel laureate Steven Weinberg calls manned missions an incredible waste of money and argues that for the cost of putting a few people on a very limited set of locations on Mars, we could have dozens of unmanned robotic missions roving all over Mars. The main argument for using humans is a public relations one. As Neil deGrasse Tyson puts it in Foreign Affairs, China's latest space proclamations could conceivably produce another Sputnik moment for the United States, spurring the country into action after a relatively fallow, not active, period in its space efforts. Also, astronauts are said to inspire our youth to become scientists and explorers. However, it is far from established that we cannot achieve the same effects by making other R&D projects our main priority. And I'm not sure what R&D means. I'm going to go back and look, but I'm thinking it means something about robotics. Okay, I'm not sure, so that's something I'm going to keep in my head. Oh, now we're moving on to the oceans. Take the oceans, about which we know much less than the dark side of the moon. 90% of the ocean floor has not even been charted, which means explored. And while we have been to the moon, the technology to explore the ocean's floors is still being developed. For example, a permanent partially submerged sea exploration station called the Sea Orbiter is currently in development. Okay, so I'm seeing their comparison here. They're like, hey, we've already had this space station, but we don't even have anything that's down in our ocean. The ocean plays a major role in controlling our climate, but we have not learned yet how to use them to cool us off rather than to contribute to our overheating. Ocean organisms are said to hold the promise of cures for an array of diseases. An examination of the unique eyes of a skate, which is a rayfish, led to advances in combating blindness. The horseshoe crab was crucial in developing a test for bacterial contamination, and sea urchins helped in the development of test tube fertilization. The toadfish's ability to regenerate its central nervous system is of much interest to neuroscientists, brain scientists. A recent Japanese study concluded that the drug eribulin, which was derived from sea sponges, is effective in combating breast, colon, and urinary cancer. Sea sponges. Huh. Given the looming, which just means hanging, like it's just there, we know that water is going to be hard to come by. We badly need more efficient and less costly methods to desalinate, or salinate. Let's see. It means remove the salt from something. Well, that makes sense because the ocean is saltwater. By 2025, which is only 5 years away, 1.8 billion people are expected to suffer from severe water scarcity, with that number jumping to almost 3.9 billion by 2050. Well over a third of the entire global population. That means people won't have water for cooking, cleaning, watering plants, drinking, flushing, making coffee. If the oceans do not make your heart go pitter-patter, how about engineering a bacteria that eats carbon dioxide and thus helps protect the world from overheating and excretes fuel, which will allow us to drive cars and machines without oil? I cannot find any evidence that people, young or old, Americans or citizens of other nations, would be less impressed or less inspired with such a breakthrough than the one more set of photos of faraway galaxy or a whole Milky Way full of stars. He's making some really good points here. Space enthusiasts claim that the space exploration has generated major spin-offs for our life right here on Earth. Tyson quotes President Obama suggesting that the Apollo mission produced technologies that have improved kidney dialysis and water purification systems. Sensors to test for hazardous gases, energy-saving building materials, and fire-resistant fabrics used by firefighters and soldiers. And adds a few more innovations to the list: digital imaging, implantable pacemakers, collision avoidance systems on aircraft, and precision LASIK eye surgery and global positioning satellites, GPS. True, I agree. There's been some good stuff happening. Of course, the space environment is radically different from the one on Earth. Materials and technologies that are suited for a vacuum, zero gravity, and extreme cold and heat are not ones we typically can use on Earth. Elias Karayanis, professor of science, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship at the George Washington University notes, government agencies, particularly those such as the National Space and Aeronautics Administration, which is NASA, that are continually pressured to justify their activities. Tout, meaning promote or publicize, the spin-off value of their investments in sometimes quite extravagant claims. Products such as Velcro, Tang, and Teflon are often cited as spin-offs of space technology, did not actually result from the space program. Space promoters tell us once every few months that there are signs that there might be or has been water on one of the planets that might make life possible. I wonder if some of those who hear these reports interpret them to mean that we could expect to find a civilization out there, one that we could ally with, say against the Chinese. What scientists are really talking about is organic material, the kind found in compost, not a reason to spend billions of dollars of public funds. So this is just saying when we're looking for life, we're actually just looking for like viruses or bacteria. We're not looking for animals or even plants, humans, aliens. We're looking for bacteria. So in short, do not cry for Mars. It is not going away, which is very true. We can send R2D2 to explore it and still keep a whole pile of dough for the important and inspiring exploration missions right here on Earth, starting at the beach nearest to you. Found this pretty interesting. Please message me if you need any more assistance with this article.